So hi everyone, we're here to learn about learning management moving forward. It's a pretty broad statement, I understand that, so let's just get on with it as time's pressing. To begin with a bit about my bio, I have quite a few years across quite a few different industry sectors of learning development, IT, web development, so on and so forth. In those areas, they usually required voice and data related training. For example, in telecommunication, 1 year I had a task of training over 650 telephone technicians throughout the US on basically going from connecting a bunch of wires together, which is what they did throughout their careers, to building computer networks, integrating the networks with voice and data phone systems related to 911. And I've done this, I had also worked worldwide in the Caribbean as well as Asia for working with these groups and creating courses and such. However, my focus currently is really that I prefer to develop learning tools. The kind of tools that I'm trying to develop are tools that would help all of you. My industry focus is really on the small to mid-sized companies, and in Canada, a mid-sized company isn't like in the US where that might be 5,000 people. In Canada, mid-sized is like 50 people. And I'm also focusing on catering to the individual learning developers out there, the freelancers, such as yourselves. I've started learningtemplates.com. I've always had a company called Products and Services Canada, which is really just, it's nothing nowadays. It focuses on custom software development. But learningtemplates.com is a place of interest to all of you, which you can go at your convenience. I'm also a partner in a company called Elegant Theme Designers, and what we do is we design WordPress themes and plugins and such. For those of you who don't know what WordPress is, it's a content management system that also creates websites for you. Oh, by the way, I am also a member of the XAPI and CMI5 working groups, which are the two working groups that that determine where we're going in the future as far as learning development tools, specifications, learning management systems, and reporting specifications. So let's get into this. So I have kind of a saying, a child educated only at school is an undereducated child, meaning they've generally learned about 10% of what they need to learn about in life. And this is not my saying, I've got it quoted. So learning development requires that we develop products that are measurable, they're tangible, and they have relevant results. However, the problem that we're running into, or that we have always been running into, are that our out-of-box tools are providing really basic measurement results, and our courses or assignable units and modules and such are what are being recorded at high levels. The learning objects themselves in some cases might be recordable. An example might be a storyline interaction is recordable, whether it be a quiz or a survey. But if we want to get deeper, we generally have to get into some pretty custom stuff, especially when it comes to the tools that are available today. So one of the things that we're trying to do in these groups, and I'm one of the key people in communicating all of this to the vendors, is to reach out to the vendors, find out what they're doing, what their plans are, and see if we can help them move forward in further developing their own products, so we as learning developers are able to do our jobs in a more cost-effective manner, i.e. we don't need to hire a programmer to go and add in some reporting entity within our course. So generally, though, what's been going on is we've been developing really in isolation. So what we need to do is we need to be able to learn to measure learners' results, and the problem is the tools today that we're using require that we contain what the learner is doing within their box. So in other words, their box being a course player, for example, a storyline. Does it record anything outside storyline? No, it doesn't. And that's an issue, because the learner is learning everywhere. They're not learning only in storyline. So the problem is that these tools developers are not providing solutions to us to in one package to be able to create a learning situation where we can have people learn from anywhere. So, for example, the course player I'd mentioned, in a classroom, we've got lecture lab. It's a controlled environment. Okay, we then have controlled exams that measure us. So all of these measurements are always contained within a controlled environment. Out of the box as well, the data collection that our programs and courses are usually doing are in isolation as well of the overall organizational goals. So our organization that we're catering to has a specific goal where they need to be able to create data that can be brought into their human resources system, where a person is truly measured against what's really required to do their job. This is not happening. Okay, so do they really, do learning results really matter in today's organization? That's a question you want to ask yourself, because the chances are that, yes, they matter a lot, but the problem is they're all being viewed in isolation of each other. So when we're developing products, we as developers understand the 7-20-10 model, and it's a huge challenge for us to also develop our products against all three of these levels at the same time. So, for example, we might develop a classroom course, which would be within the 10 sector, being formal education, but that classroom course most likely won't be including social exposure, and it may not be including its real-life experiential exposure. Those are three distinctively separate areas that would need to be recorded for somebody to truly be measured across the spectrum. So my question to anybody here is, has anybody successfully developed one single product against all three of these sectors? If you have, please do a lecture. It'd be great. It'd be interesting to see your experience, because I'm quite sure there were a lot of challenges to overcome. So from a reporting and development perspective, we see that we're really kind of caught in a bunch of columns when we're developing. So, and the reporting requirements are generally a lot broader than the isolated columns that we're in. So learning reports have to come from multiple sources, and they require manual compilation nowadays usually. When I say manual, it may be combining spreadsheets. That's a manual process still, but there is no clear automatic process that brings all the reporting input into one consumable location that makes a lot of sense. Unless you get into some really custom development. You know, the SAPs of the world, those integrated solutions that cost $150,000, the HRIS solutions where somebody will come in and you know, again, do a custom program interface that will bring learning data in. There are companies that do that. I used to work for an LMS manufacturer that did an amazing job with that work, but their product you couldn't buy. But it did help. The airline industries such as Bombardier were one of our clients, and they had basically planned their workload and their delivery of jets based on the learning system. So just to mention a few reporting requirements, as I've just mentioned, individual training reports, they need to get merged with departmental performance reports. And then, and these are just a couple of examples. There are many, many examples out there. Again, and then we might have individual performance reports, which may not contain the same data as departmental conformance reports, or performance reports. They may need to get integrated into organizational performance reports. And again, they may all contain 7 completely different standards or so. And this is where we are today after evolving for over 27 years. And you got to admit, that's not very far when it comes to reporting. We're in pretty bad shape. And I'm not talking us, the learning developers. I'm talking the whole industry, industry in general, bringing learning data and learning experiences into real-life data. So depending on the capabilities of the products that you use to develop the course, we've also been able to provide a few results. But those results have always been reliant on certain things. Before we did electronic measurement, we always had to have people giving human inputs. So for example, you might have an instructor who didn't have his coffee that morning, and next thing you know, everybody's getting lower exam grades for that morning session. But by the afternoon, the instructor's feeling great, and everybody's he's presenting the information better and monitoring the exam better and giving better results. So this is one of the problems that needed to be addressed. So some industry standards came out. AICC and SCORM. Now these standards were allowed for electronic measurement of exams results, course time periods that were taken, what pages were viewed, how long pages might have been viewed. They got into some pretty decent stuff, but the problem is they focused really only on the electronic side of things. That instructor was still basically not having his coffee in the morning and still giving less grades, that sort of thing. So the out of box, essentially, these SCORM standards helped on the electronic learning side.
And hey, Dennis,
yes.
This is Patty. Just wanted to give you a quick time recap here. About 3 minutes.
Okay, no problem. So just to give you a little history, essentially the AICC standard came out of the aviation industry, and it was built against primarily learning management systems and electronic courses. And that standard evolved into the SCORM standard that we know today. The next generation of SCORM is called XAPI. It's Tin Can API, which I'm sure you've all heard of, but Tin Can was actually just a project name in reality. XAPI is the true name, and that means experience API. Now I'll just burn through this information pretty quickly, but essentially the experience API, what it means is that we're going to report on your whole experience as a learner. We're not going to just report on the electronic side. We're not going to just report on the classroom side. It is the whole thing, and in fact, it extends out into the world. There's also another standard called CMI-5, and I'm part of that working group as well. And what that does is that's going to basically that CMI-5, what it does do currently is it forces a standard on the learning management system vendors to force them to be able to report on the data that XAPI provides. Now, out of box, XAPI provides more human readable reports. Even unmassaged data actually is more human readable than you might get from any standard LMS today. So as an example, here I have one example where I elaborate on as well. John attended psychology. That's what you would see in the report, and that the information is actually collected that way. XAPI reporting can also elaborate on that by providing latitude, longitudinal information as well as date and time information, start date, start time, end date, end time. So now we can elaborate on that by saying John attended psychology at Harvard on the 12th of November at 9 a.m. So that's just an example of the kind of results you can get. And that actually does help us out of box. There is that kind of report, by the way, has no custom programming to it to be able to get to that level. So let's go ahead and let's burn through the next one real quick. I have a number of slides, but we'll get through them quick. So just to give a use case of John attending psychology at Harvard, that sort of thing, here's the kind of statements that I just collected this morning off my own XAPI system, where I took a little online course, and you can see that I've got a number of different statements. And if you look at how closely together these are, okay, so essentially, to make a long story short, you can see here that you can get some fairly decent information from the system. And what you're looking at in this particular screenshot, that's not even a report. That's not even a report. That's the raw data. So that's what the Experience API can provide people just as raw data. You can expand on the data and see all the code behind it, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you can see just immediately a stream of raw data. The other advantage is the Experience API lives everywhere. It is part of the Internet of Things, and it is a standard that the Internet has been using for quite some time. This wasn't invented for learning. It was invented for mobile devices initially. So the XAPI lives everywhere, okay, on the Internet, and on top of that, the XAPI crosses the 7/20/10 boundaries, allowing you to even take courses outside the Internet, or even, contribute to your learning outside the Internet, not take courses. To give one little example in a little write-up I did once, I gave a little scenario where some fellow was standing on the top of Mount Shasta, and he brought out his cell phone and pushed a little button that said, "I'm here," and voila. As soon as he got back into data range, it got loaded into the system, and it said, John experienced John was at the top of Mount Shasta on this day at this time, and here was his elevation and his Latin long, that sort of thing. So the Experience API basically, as you'd seen in one of the previous slides, it can basically say, Dennis did this against this object. The other thing about the Experience API is that it uses a system called a learning record store, and that system, what that is a very lightweight kind of server, which completely eliminates the requirement for an LMS. In fact, you don't need a learning management system, and you don't actually need it at all. But with the CMI spec, you can actually use a learning management system with it. The other thing, too, is that the learning record store, that server I just described, the lightweight one, can report directly to human resources systems as well. So with these two standards, essentially what we're doing is we're driving the industry to move forward, to go to this technology so that we as developers can basically break out of the box. And there's a little final note I just want to show on this on the second to last slide here. And this final note I find important, and if you could all do, and I think I spelled Adobe wrong, by the way, Abodi. Okay. As a final note, what I just want everyone to know is that we, as the users of all the products we use, we have the ability to go to the Articulates, the Abodis or the Adobes, and the Trivantuses and the LMS manufacturers and everyone. We have the right to reach out to them and try to persuade them to develop their products the way that we will need to use them. Because right now, we are all confined within their realms. And it's them that's kind of telling us, here's where we want to go. Now, it's our right, and I myself have done this as part of the CMI5 working group. I have reached out to about 48 vendors so far and explained to them they need to move their products forward with the XAPI and CMI5 specifications so that we as developers can stop developing in columns that are product oriented. All right, so I just thought I'd let you all, I'm sorry I've made that so quick, but there's a couple other things I just want to briefly mention about some of the things that I have to offer to the group. As I said earlier, my dedication is to the e-learning freelancers and the small and medium-sized organizations in the world. For freelancers, I have the learningtemplates.com website where you can actually open up your own online store and sell your own e-learning products. It doesn't cost you anything to open a store or publish your products, and you can also put demos of your products up and such. And if you don't want any of your product to reside in someone else's website, then you can also link your downloadable products for sale back to your site. You can also put your demos on your own site and just link to everything. Now, this is a WordPress site, and the other thing that I'm doing is I'm taking learning management into the open source world of WordPress, where I do have a product and am developing further products that will allow you to use a learning record store, the server I'd mentioned earlier, and have WordPress talk to that. Now, a big advantage about learning record stores is they don't use the same database technologies and such that websites normally do. These are really specific servers. They have really fast databases and such. In fact, up to 8,000 times faster than your normal website's database. So there's a lot of different integrations that I do as well. So I just thought I'd let you all know this as well. And if you want to contact me, my contact info is down below. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Dennis. We really appreciate that. And I don't know if you could put this slide deck or some of this information up in the forum. That would be incredible, because this is a lot of information for us to absorb.
It is a lot, yeah. I'll stop sharing.
We've got 2 minutes left, and thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and really quick send this over to Ant. For 2 minutes, he's just going to introduce one quick thing to us, and then we will head out. So over to you, Ant.
Hi, guys. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Well, we can see your face.
Oh, is that all? Sorry about that. So I need to click that. Cool. Okay, guys. So I'm just going to, as Patty said, just take 2 minutes. First of all, just to say thanks to Patty for organising this WebEx. I think it's obviously only the second time we've done it, but it's been really well received so far. And I know from my perspective, I've learned so much just in these 2 one-hour sessions. And immediately as the session finished last week, I started thinking to myself, I really wanted to carry on the conversation with everyone who was involved. And I've been using a tool called Slack for the past probably about 6-7 months with a group of colleagues who we've all set up businesses in the last year or so, and we wanted a sort of central forum where we could share ideas and share different techniques and tips for building a decent business. So quickly in your chat window, if you could just fire me a quick 1-letter reply. Can you let me know with a Y or an N? Have you used Slack or heard of it before? Give me a quick Y or an N so I can see who's used it. Okay, so it seems like most people haven't used it. You've probably all heard of it. If you haven't, I know it's annoying having all these different bits of software, and I hate constantly, you get these new apps and you got to download this new one, and it's a pain sometimes to constantly be downloading these new apps. But Slack is one of the first pieces of software I've used that I've actually thought will probably outlive majority of other bits of software that we see coming out into the market, or apps and that sort of thing. And I know we've got LinkedIn, and we could potentially set up a Facebook group to continue that conversation, but Slack seems like a really sensible way to do this, because I'm going to bring it up on the screen now. I've set up a Slack group for us. Don't worry if you've never seen this before. It's really, really straightforward. It's just like using Skype or MSN Messenger or any of those chat room type forums where you type your message into the window at the bottom down here, click send, and it will send to everybody in the group. The great thing about Slack, though, is if you look over here on the left-hand side, is you have what we call channels. So rather than just having a big hodgepodge of...
We don't see that on the left-hand side. We're just seeing the Slack homepage.
Oh, okay. Strange.
So maybe just if you can move it over where the homepage is. Or just log in on the homepage.
I'm using the one monitor, so it should just be... Okay, hang on. Okay, is that any better?
Nope, still see the homepage. Nope, now we see it. Good.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, just as I was saying, you can type your messages down here at the bottom. It's really, really simple. You've got channels on the left-hand side. I've set up about 10 channels on different topics that maybe, you know, we've already talked about. I set up one earlier as the first presenter was talking for the voiceover channel. I thought that would be great to share tips. So if you know, Dennis wants to put his slide notes in there, that sort of thing. But it just keeps the conversation organized. It means that rather than having all that conversation in one place, where you might have talked about something with somebody a couple of weeks ago and you want to go back and add to that conversation, it all stays in its organized channel. And we can add as many of these channels as you like. So I've created 10 as kind of examples there. But what I need you to do is, if you're keen to join in with this, it's completely free. I just need you to send me a quick email. I'm going to send you my email address on the Slack chat, on the Zoom. Is it Zoom? Zoom chat now. If you send me an email, if you're keen to join in, I'll add you, and you can just install Slack yourself. But if you also want to add suggestions for channels, we can, I'll add those as well. So obviously, just let me know what you think, and I think it could be a great way for us to continue the dialogue in between our weekly meetings. But we'll see how it goes. It might be boring and nobody wants to do it, but I thought it could be a good idea. So it's free to try and give it a whirl. So I'll pass back over to Patty now.
Thank you so much, Ant, and I'm definitely going to try it. And I've already thought of some questions that I'm going to post in there, and I would love to get a discussion going. So that would be great. All right, so I know we're over. Thank you so much, everyone. Next week, go ahead and sign up for that one. It's same time, same place, just a different format, be a lot more interactive. Thanks to Alex. All right, have a beautiful day, everybody.